Hey guys, I'm with George again from Low Cost SEO. We were chatting again about a couple more tips and tricks that we could send your way, and we came to some real realizations around not only site structure but content and the best way to kind of leverage that to get your SEO ranking higher. So George.
Yeah, you made a really good point in our offline discussion about how imagery these days can be dissected and analysed by Google, and Google can actually see now, it's not blind anymore.
Yeah.
And how you make
what people don't realize is there's a lot of metadata that's saved behind your images. So if you're on your desktop and you just kind of right click on your images and you look at the properties in there, Google can actually analyze that information that's saved in that metadata and then know where the origins of the image came from.
Yes.
So what I believe, they recently changed the algorithm so that it would analyze that data and understand whether that photo is more relevant or less relevant.
Correct.
Based on whether it's a stock footage or whether it was custom and built and created for that page.
And keyword recapture, when you see this, a lot of these keyword recapture companies that where you see the images and you have to select the mountain or the dog or the cat.
Little bus or something.
Yeah, that's actually teaching usually the algorithms on is something a cat or a dog, or so they've got better recognition. So the reason why I raise this point is Google's big on plagiarism, and they don't like people scraping other websites, because if you have two websites that have the same stuff or you've stolen someone else's information, it devalues content and it helps people game systems. So they don't like gaming, they don't like plagiarism. So hence, when you write copy, you need to run it through a plagiarize tool to make sure no one else has written that type of stuff before. Same with your imagery, as you're saying, it needs to be unique imagery. You can't just take it, crop it and think you're going to get away with it, right? So you need to either pay good money for good unique imagery or take your own images. So don't just copy the screenshot other people's stuff, right?
Yeah, because like Google can actually identify pixel by pixel now within an image. So it's not even just the metadata. If you take an image and you drag and drop it into Google Images, it'll actually refine a search based on that image and find other images that look similar or the same image on other websites. So you can actually leverage Google to see how many times an image has now been used across the internet. So it's pretty sophisticated. It's not like you can just game the system by like changing the color slightly and being like, that'll do the job. They'll never know the difference. It's pretty sophisticated. It's not,
So a lot of this, what we call this in our game, is on-site technical optimization. Right, so that's two. Some of the other things that we optimize on the site, in addition to having unique copy and unique images, is we like to put alt tags behind images. You don't want to overdo it, but you need to describe what the image is. So if someone's blind and they have a reader, then the reader can then interpret what's on the site. So it's good for people with disability or visual impairment issues.
And you see that when you like pan over an image, right? And you wait for that little drop down. That's the alt tag. Yeah,
the little alt tag. The tool tip, as they call it. So the other thing we do is having relevant anchor tags. So if you're speaking about, let's say, before we use the wedding photography example, so if you're talking about wedding photography cakes inside a particular article, well, you might want to anchor that wedding photography or cakes and wedding photography to another blog that talks in more length about that particular topic. So that then helps Google and it also helps the SEO, because if a lot of your site is talking about cakes and wedding photography and you've written a few articles about it, or your homepage has, then those anchor tags appear to the algorithm, and then the algorithm helps itself determine that you're more relevant for that topic again. So it's all about how relevant you are, and as I said before in the other videos, are you the best site in the world to rank for that particular topic? So anchor tags is really important again, but you can't overdo it. You can't put anchor tags all over the place, right? So that's really important that you don't do that. And the other thing is again, with page load, making sure that the actual page has structured data in it as well. So structured data is little snippets of information that you can wrap around the code in the back end, so that if Amazon is reading a page, or if you have a reader, or you're in Kindle, that also advertises to Google and points out what particular parts of the page is about. So structured data is something that's not new, but it's relatively kind of new, underutilized. And now
I didn't even know about it until you just mentioned it.
And now as more like Google, Google Amazon and Google Chat and all those speakers are coming into the house, like the smart systems. They need to use stuff like structured data and SEO ranking to help rank those pages. Now that's another SEO world in itself, right? There's actual specialists that just do that around structured data. But there you go. There's some tips and tricks for today.
Some really good ones in there. Ones I didn't even know about. There was one thing you mentioned, and I don't know if you have one like top of mind right now, but you said tools for checking plagiarism in copy. Do you have one that you could recommend?
Copyscape is probably probably the best one.
And I'll put the link in the video that we share. So copyscape.com is it, or
put the link. I'm pretty sure it's copyscape.com. It's something.
But that's a great tool to kind of run your site through and then make sure that your copy is unique. Fantastic.
It's really good because what it'll do is you can put up to 1,000 or as much as you want in there. I think it's only like 2 cents a check. All right, so you put a bit of cash in there, and then what it'll do is it'll search the entire internet on any sentences or even 2 or 3 words that are really identical, and then it'll come back with all the URLs, and then you can even see if someone else has plagiarized your site.
Because we have this kind of with a client at the moment who is a reseller of somebody else's product. And the struggle there is that you're often using similar language or the same words because you're also selling the same product as not only the manufacturer who has their own site, but you're also selling it the same as every other reseller is selling it. So is that something that you would want to run through the system to make sure that you have unique enough content around that particular product?
I think Google is smart enough to understand that if you're selling red socks and everyone has red socks in their copy, that it knows, okay, this is a red sock salesman, this is one as well. They're not really plagiarizing, they're
describing
the product. The product that's what the product is. But you can't then go and copy paragraphs of someone else's description and think you can get away with it. That's not good. It's illegal because it's plagiarism. But B, you wouldn't do it. And the other thing is, why would you want to do it? You want to be original. Like it's an original business. You've got, you're selling a product, but you might have a particular way that you sell it. So that's what I would encourage. Keep what you have to keep the same. But then around that, try and put your own personal differences in there.
Awesome, man. Some great tips in there, guys. We'll put a link in the descriptions, and you can find Copyscape. And I hope you got some value out of all these tips and tricks. Thanks, George.
Cool. No worries.
Awesome.